So, this semester for British Literature 2301, we learned about the beauty and the monstrous. Two themes I saw throughout the many texts that we read this semester were, one, that beauty changes over time. Throughout history, we see the psychological and the physical meaning of beauty change to what people see as beautiful in that specific time period. And two, ideas or things that can start off with a very good intention or a really great idea can turn out bad. To begin, some instances we see beauty change throughout time in literature. In the 1500s to 1800s, we begin with beauty being viewed and accompanied by power. Specifically, Beowulf. He is a young prince who is, a cool little prince and a mighty warrior. He finds out about a kingdom being hurt by a monster, and he wants to help. He's there for everyone. He says, yeah, I'll do it. I'll help. A quote from that story is, "Behavior that's admired is the path to power among people everywhere." This shows that having power was incredibly important to other people, especially those who already had a little bit of power. Not only is power important to the people in this era, but they have a strict honor code and use the term an eye for an eye quite literally. It's an intense political and diplomatic structure that is very hard to penetrate. But we see Beowulf act this way when he comes to the rescue to the kingdom in danger. Not only do we see power and beauty in one atmosphere, but we also see beauty and temptation in the same atmosphere as well. In The Goblin Market by Christina Rossetti, she writes about these goblins that have the most wonderful and incredible fruits and treats, and it is very hard to not be tempted by these incredible looking treats. The older sister Lizzie tells the younger sister Laura to not be tempted by these yummy treats and fruits that the goblins come and try to sell every day. This is where we can see beauty and temptation in the same sphere. In the story, A Garden Party by Catherine Mansfield, we see beauty in the form of life and life lost. After the party, they had so much extra food, they decided to take it down to the family of the man who died. Laura decides to go down and take the food to that family. When she goes to the house, they invite her in, and she isn't quite able to spit out what she thinks life is. So here we have a young girl trying to figure out what beauty means in her life, and seeing a man who had just passed helps her realize what beauty lies in her life. Throughout these three stories, we see how beauty is changing throughout the year. The second theme I came up with was things or ideas that can start out good and end up turning out bad in the end. Satan, an angel, wanted to become better than God and receive more praise and glory than God. God eventually kicks Satan and Satan's followers out of heaven. In that instance, Satan has decided that he's going to never do good. This is why he says, "Which way I fly is hell. I myself am hell, and in the lowest deep, a lower deep, still threatening to devour me, opens wide, to which the hell I suffer seems a heaven." So the story that started out great with God creating the heavens and the earth and human turns out bad to Satan because he eventually tries to ruin God's creation. Frankenstein starts out with a scientist who wants to recreate human life. This is an outrageous idea to pursue. The idea that Dr. Frankenstein starts out with is great. It's an amazing idea. He wants his reputation to be better than every other scientist. And this ends up turning bad for him. Not only does he create a monster, but he creates a bunch of evil acts that happen to people who were otherwise innocent. Not only does something start out with a good idea in Frankenstein, but in the story, Rebecca, we find a young lady who falls in love with this older man. And throughout this story, we find that the man was married and his wife passed away recently. What started out as a great idea of engagement for Rebecca and Maxim turns out to be a terrible and awful relationship. We learn how Rebecca cheated on him plenty of times and was a horrible wife to him. What started out as a great idea of engagement for Rebecca and Maxim turns out to be a terrible and awful relationship. We learn how Rebecca cheated on him plenty of times and was a horrible wife to him. Find out in the end that Maxim, the husband, eventually killed Rebecca out of jealousy. The end. You got anything to add? Yeah? She said she's agreeing with everything I said. I mean, no problems there.